Hello guys, welcome to January's update. I hope you guys had a good Christmas and New Year. We now have the data from Rightmove for the end of last year. Now we can do a summary of 2021 now that we have the final month's output for the year. And as expected, December saw a slight decrease in the average price of properties in the UK. If you watched last month's update, I shared with you guys that there is a repeatable, consistent pattern with the property market over here that towards the end of the year, and most countries to be fair, property market tends to cool down. Why? Because people aren't trying to move or buy a house during the Christmas period. People want to be indoors eating mince pies, spending time with their families. They're not trying to pack up their life and relocate somewhere else, generally speaking. And as you can see on screen right now, we saw another similar decrease to November, 0.7%, had 0.6% the previous month. So the average price has gone down by just over £2,000. Now let's summarize the year. What happened in 2021? We know that 2021 was a very strong year for property, and so was 2020. You know, as soon as the global health crisis started, we saw what we called this flight for space or search for space. So people really searched for bigger homes over the last 12 to 18 months, and you can see the trend here. Second steppers and top of the ladder homes. Second steppers being 3 to 4 bed homes, and top of the ladder being 5 bed and above. Bigger homes, basically. These have seen the most growth over the past year because, as we said, people are searching for space. And guys, it's been some year here in the UK. From January 2021, beginning of this year, property prices were just over £250,000. We're now at October. Property prices have gone up in 1 year on average £18,000. In terms of percentages, what that looks like, so far this year, property prices have risen by 7.2%, which is a very strong year by normal standards. And as we look back right now in January on 2021, what has driven it? Well, it's really been a tale of demand versus supply. We've had huge demand for the reasons that I've just mentioned, i.e. people searching for space. We had the stamp duty holiday also. Incredibly strong drivers of demand. And on the flip side, we had a lack of supply. Now, I want to focus in this video, the theme of this video, guys, is going to be supply. Throughout this year, we have had a lack of supply of property. Message! And when you have demand that is greater than supply, what happens? Prices get pushed up. And these two graphs here highlight that perfectly. So you can see from January onwards towards the end of the year, you see this constant decline in stock of property, which is the average amount of properties each agent has to sell. Decrease of 25% over the course of the year. So for some reason, which we're going to go into in more detail in this video, as I said, the theme is going to be the supply of housing in the UK. Stock of houses has been falling. Parallel to that, we see a steep decrease over the course of the year in the average time that it takes to secure a buyer, from 65 days, i.e. just over 2 months, to just over a month. That's over a 40% decrease during the course of the year. And that's basically telling us that demand is through the roof. And then the net effect, guys, of both of these is that you see prices shooting up because effectively demand is greater than supply throughout the year. So guys, why has supply of houses been so low in the UK this year?
What's the secret to?
Now I'm going to walk you through a few articles that I think are pretty good in terms of the reasons that they give for supply, because if you've read around yourselves, what I've seen quite a lot is articles talking about supply and just stating the obvious. Supply is low. Yeah, that's great, but why? So there's not a lot actually, guys, of articles that actually go or attempt to explain why, but I think I've found some. So this one's from the Financial Times, and what it's telling us here is that housing stock has fallen by 40%. The number of houses for sale in the past 8 months has declined steadily. So again, we stated that up front. So let's get into why. So one reason for the housing market's continued supply and demand gap is sellers being too nervous to enter the market, according to Property Mark. So the reason that's been given is that sellers are too nervous to enter the market. Now, the natural question off the back of that is why? Why would sellers be nervous to enter the market when we know that over the last 12 months it has been huge demand from buyers? It's almost like trying to sell water to people in the middle of a desert. You're not going to struggle, guys. So why in the world would sellers be too nervous to enter the market, especially over the last 18 months? Well, it goes on to say that very few people can buy a house without selling. Fair enough. Most people, before they buy a house, will sell the house that they currently own, of course, if they own one, hopefully benefit from the rise in the value of that house, pay off the remainder of their mortgage if there is one, and use what's left to use as a deposit on the next house, because everybody's got to live somewhere. So the majority of buyers need to put a property on the market before they can buy their next property. Then this Nathan Emerson chap goes on to say that pre-pandemic, properties experienced 13 to 4 viewings before landing a sale, but now agents are selling properties after showing them to just 3 or 4 property buyers. So basically, properties are selling a lot more quicker. Fine. Properties are selling in much shorter periods of time, which means that people think they haven't got time to sell their own property. And this article in Mortgage Solutions by the same guy, Nathan Emerson, actually provides a bit more context to what he's saying. So Nathan Emerson said that sellers were similarly nervous about joining the market, as high demand could mean that they sell quickly and have nowhere to go. So essentially he's saying that because the property market is so lively, much livelier than expected, you could sell your house and have it sold so quickly that you wouldn't even have time. You wouldn't even have the time to search for a house for yourself, because things are moving that fast. Now, let me know what you guys think. I mean, it's rational, it makes sense, but I find it hard to believe that a seller, a vendor, wouldn't take some practical steps to prevent this happening. For example, maybe delaying completion by a month, or, and I'm stating the obvious here, going and doing viewings and finding a house in parallel with putting their house for sale. You can time this thing so that you're not necessarily in a position where you've sold your house and you don't have anywhere to go. At least not to the extent that there's this national shortage of properties across the UK. Does seem peculiar to me, but what do you guys think about this particular scenario? Now, moving on to another article. This one was written slightly earlier in the year. Sometimes it's helpful to go back to articles that are written as a phenomenon is being experienced, because they give you a real-time view narrative of what's happening. So back in February, this article observed that total housing stock in England and Wales dropped to a record low, and if you remember, less than 3/4 of the expected number of instructions to sell property from vendors came during January. And again, coming into the actual reasoning behind this article is saying that vendors' hesitation is understandable amidst worrying developments in the ongoing health crisis, and buyers are staying away from physical viewings altogether. So I understand this from a vendor's perspective, especially back in February. We wasn't sure how much longer the lockdown was going to last for, and what direction, what path the health crisis was going to take back then. So if you're selling a house and you're unsure of where the economy goes, it makes sense that some people might choose to not put their houses on the market, wait it out, and then put it back on once the economy is stabilized. However, as we've said time and time again, from March 2020 onwards, people were moving. They were searching for space, they were looking for bigger houses. So by this time, the property market was picking up steam. And put yourself in the scenario, if you're selling a house, you might have a Google search, how's the property market doing? How lively is it? You're going to come across a lot of articles during that time telling you that there's incredibly strong levels of demand, a low supply. So really is a seller's market. It is surprising, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, it's surprising to hear that vendors were hesitant during this time to put their houses on the market when we've just seen one of the most strongest 18-month periods in the UK property market on record. We haven't seen activity and demand and price growth like this since 2006-7, so 14-15 years ago. It is peculiar, guys, to see that people were choosing not to put their houses on the market during this time. Again, let me know in the comment section what you think about this. And then coming back to the data, we saw a peak this year. Property prices in the UK peaked out in October 2021. And as you can see, I mean, healthy growth. It's been a great year up until then. And as expected, during this festive period, we saw the tail off that happens from November into January. So I expect this to come down further, not massively, but slightly by the time the January data comes out. And then lastly, let's see what's happening in the regions of the UK. Dark green means that there's an increase on last month. Light green means that there is a decrease on last month. So we know that overall for the whole of the UK this month there has been a slight decrease in property prices of 0.7%. So we'd expect most of the regions in the UK to show a decrease, and they have basically in the north and the south, but in the Midlands there have been increases, East and West Midlands, Northwest where I invest, and also Wales, which has had really good year overall. So that is a summary, guys, of the year 2021 in the UK property market. What do you think is going to happen next year? As we said, I wanted to focus on supply in this month's video and provide you with some sources on what people are saying has happened in the UK property market from a supply perspective. I think the overall hope is that next year supply increases, the stock of houses increases to meet the strong demand, which a lot of sources are saying will continue into 2022. Maybe not at the pandemic levels that we've seen this year, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in Q1 of 2022, and of course I'll be bringing you update videos on those. If you found this video useful, do like and subscribe and share this video. Check out my property investing tool in the description below, and I'll see you guys soon.